Hello and welcome to the live stream for Tuesday, May 21st. What's going on? I'm here it's a really nice day. Just came back from a walk outside, getting some sun on myself. It was wonderful. It is unfortunately allergy season, which is not as fun. That's the problem, right? That the weather gets good and then you're like, oh, and I'm down. Yeah, that's the way it goes. But I'm here with my iced coffee, enjoying the afternoon experience. And that's yeah, my I've been like walking a loop around my neighborhood and ending at the coffee shop near my house. So that's been super fun. Saw my niece who's about to graduate from high school yesterday, so that was fun. We went out and hung out a little bit, and now I'm just back in it, doing stuff, and trying not to be a complete. I don't know what am I trying not to be like. A slacker. That's the word I was like wastrel. What's the word? Slacker. I want to be a slacker is what I want to do. Like just hang out at the coffee shop and sit in the sun and listen to music. That's something that's where I'm at today. Anyway, but I have no excuse. I have no excuse but my essential nature. There's not much going on. So if you are new here, welcome. If you're not new here, welcome back. I do this most Tuesday afternoon evenings, so that we can connect and get to know each other. If we don't know each other, I can answer questions. We can talk about whatever you want. I can give you a little bit more about my background. If you're new to me, I am an author of a book with Dr. Ken Berry called Common Sense Labs. I am a coach, mostly around weight loss, and I am a researcher, and I also like to cook, so create recipes. I've been getting back into the cooking a little bit. I've been in a very like non-cooking place for a while, and because I've been in like a weight loss mode, and sometimes when I'm in like kind of an extreme weight loss experience, my thing is I just like eat almost the same thing every single day, and it's not that interesting, and I don't really feel like I have that much to talk about. So now I'm kind of yeah, I kind of went to maintenance for a couple of weeks, was it months, a little while, and then now I'm like, oh, my interest in food feels like it's coming forward a little bit because I've got a little more room to play. But mostly this week I've been making things like a lot of chicken salad. There's a great I don't know the package here. I got a package of pulled chicken from Trader Joe's, which was just basically spices and chicken. Now, in ingredients list is says sugar. So those of you that are super purists on ingredients, it may not be what you want to do. Right? There's a rub on the chicken. It's less than 1 gram of carbs per serving, which is I think 21 grams of protein, and it's like 3 ounces. So it's literally just a little bit in the rub. If that bothers you, then don't buy the product. Just make some chicken. But I've been making like chicken salad with that because it's easy, and I'm again lazy, sloth like in my life. And so if I can buy pre-cooked chicken that isn't terrible, because a lot of pre-cooked chicken is really terrible, right? Who agrees? Put a comment in if you agree with me that most pre-cooked chicken is awful. But this one, I mean, it's not like super moist and juicy because it's just chicken breast, but it's not super dry. It's like good for chicken breast, and it's flavorful. And so I used it to make chicken salad. And I've been doing kind of like a lot of I like my chicken salad to have some egg in it, some hard-boiled egg. So did more hard-boiled egg than usual, kind of for a little more flavor and interest. So right now my chicken salad has been mayonnaise, Greek yogurt. Now I do that to get a little more protein in the chicken salad, right? And bring the calories down. But mayonnaise, Greek yogurt, uh, dill, fresh dill, which is so good. I love fresh dill. Pickles, little celery, chopped up chicken, and then salt and pepper. I've been using the Redmond's lemon pepper, which is really tasty, with the chicken salad and those kind of other flavors. But so kind of like somewhere in the middle of like it's definitely more chicken salad than egg salad, but it's got a little egg salad flavor to it in the that I use like four whole like it's like a pound of chicken and four uh hard boiled eggs. I could even go as high as six and think that was really good. And it's a pretty lean salad because the chicken is chicken breast, so the fat from the eggs is not going to go amiss on that. It's not very much, right? And it adds such a nice texture and flavor. And so that's been my go to. I'll just eat that all week long. Kathy asks, am I working on a new cookbook or book? So I am, Ken Barry and I are revamping Common Sense Labs. So that's most of what I'm working on right now. We're rewriting it to be like three times as long with a lot more information in it. And so that is something um, that that I'm working on. And then once I've got that turned in with once I've got my stuff and he's got his, once that's all turned into the publisher, I will probably work on a cookbook. I have one that I kind of have started on called Protein Prioritized, which is high protein recipe, low carb, high protein recipes for people that want to incorporate a little more protein in their life. So that might be the next thing I work on. I don't know. Do you have an idea? Is there something you'd like to see out there in the world? Something that you think we're missing out on? I can take that under advisement. Um, Kathy wondered what kind of mayo do I use? Thank you guys for the questions. Questions help so I don't just ramble. What kind of mayo do I use? If I don't make my own mayo, and I don't always make my own mayo, I keep in the fridge. Chosen Foods mayo is the one I probably like the best. I'm not a big fan of Primal Kitchen's flavor. I think the ingredients are good, but I think Chosen Foods has a little bit better flavor. Or I'll make my own if I feel like it. So those are those. Um, Honestly, the taste, the the mayo I like the taste of the best is Best Foods, which I think we all know it doesn't use the best oils. You know, if my it's what my parents have at their house. So if I'm making something over at their house, I'll certainly use it and I certainly enjoy it. It's not like the fact that I might have a couple tablespoons of Best Foods like every year is not a big deal to me. But I try not to stock products in my house that are full of seed oils. All right. Sharon says, how long should I do a sardine challenge? I might be able to do a 3 day, but not sure if I go longer. Personally, I'm not that big a fan of the sardine challenge. So, I mean, there are some things to recommend it that I've heard, right? So, one thing I am not a personal fan of sardines because I am not a fish person just because I'm a wimp. And I have very strong flavor aversions, and fishy things is a big aversion. Like literally I am the 4-year-old who's like gagging at just putting it in my mouth. And so I can't do it. But sardines are in fact very good for you. They are apparently the food highest in creatine that you can get. I didn't even know that, but I found that out. And so if you like sardines, and you want to do some sort of mental challenge, um, for some period of time, where you're going to be definitely in ketosis. So, one of the benefits of like trying to like be positive on the positive parts, right? Not just negative. No, I'm like a negative Nelly. I'm always like, man, I don't like that. My boyfriend is always getting on my case because I'm always like, I don't like that. And then like I'll try something again and I'll be like, maybe I like it, okay. But like I'm always like, no. Um, but anyway, a couple of like my general issues with the sardine challenge is it's sort of a fasting challenge, right? If you're like, oh, I want to do a 3 day fast, but I'm also sort of worried that I will need an out for some type of food. So I'm going to have some sardines because sardines aren't something you're going to overeat. You're not going to want more than a certain number of sardines, most people, in a day. So it's sort of like something you can eat. but it's not too much to eat. So you're going to be really low calorie for those 3 days. And I don't know. It's just, it does not align with the way that I look at food or teach about food. I don't really like food aversion challenge kind of based things, which is the only way it comes to me. So I am open to somebody else having a very different interpretation of it, but like for me, my interpretation around the sardine challenge, it has a lot of connotations where I'm not sure I line up with the philosophy around it. So like I support sardines as a healthy food. Yes. One, yes, I'll go with that. Um, Two, there's a lot of good stuff in sardines. I support them. I don't necessarily think most people should be doing a 3-day fast. I'll just put it that way. Unless you are like you have a very high level of obesity, and are somebody that has enough, um, is healthy enough that you're not going to end up, you know, in a problem space around that. So I have a lot of caveats. I'm not, my personal life philosophies and nutritional philosophies are not well aligned. So if you're at, so, so there's probably somebody better. If you're like, I am sold on doing a 3-day sardine fast, that is what I want to do. I'm probably not your girl to answer a question about it because it doesn't really well align with the way that I approach nutrition and like mental space around nutrition. And that's my personal thing. Again, not a knock on sardines. They're probably one of the world's healthiest foods. I just think yeah, I think I've covered it, right? I'm not a big it's the fasting part for me. I'm not anti-fast, but I'm also not let's have everybody do them. It's very specific who, when, how that should be undertaken. Kathy, do I intermittent fast? Yeah, sure, I do. I mean, just going to be perfectly clear, I think everyone should do it like when I hear the term intermittent fasting, what comes to my mind is what a lot of people might term time restricted feeding, right? So there are parts of the day you don't eat, and there are parts of the day you do eat. And I'm a big fan of that for sure. I'm not a fan for most people of grazing unless you're like a toddler, right? That's different. But as an adult person, I think we should eat meals, not snacks. Um, and we should eat at discrete times through the day, like specific times in the day. And not like specific as in it must be at this time, right? But like you eat a meal, then you stop eating for a while. Then you eat a meal, then you stop eating for a while. Then you eat, right? That on off switch, right? And then at a certain point in the day, I believe people should stop eating. And then at the next day, they should start eating again. Like, so in that definition, we're all doing some version of intermittent fasting, right? Because nobody's sleep, well, some people are sleep eating that take Ambien, but you don't want to be sleep eating. And I also think it's very good to give your body some digestive rest for about 3 hours before bed in most cases. And so for me, I think most people should stop eating at some point in the evening, well in advance of bedtime. And in the morning, I don't think it's important that you jump out of bed and the first thing you do is eat a meal. I think that can wait if a little bit, but if you wake up really hungry, well, then I'm a supporter of breakfast. And so, I think that a healthy person should probably not have an eating window or need an eating window of more than about 12 hours for sure, but maybe less than that. And so I think we all do some version of time restricted eating. I think there are some subtle benefits to concentrating your calories in the earlier part of the day rather than the later part. So I'm more of a fan of like more food. Well, what do they say? Like breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper. Like kind of keeping the food more concentrated in the early part than the later part. But like also listening to what your body is hungry for and when. And if you're like the idea of eating before noon makes me feel like I want to yerk, then maybe not for you to eat breakfast. Like I think we can honor our own hunger a little bit. So I will say that at this point in my life, it's not that I like intentionally force myself like in ways like I'm like, oh no, I have to stop eating. I can't eat again. I'm like, okay, eat dinner. I'll see food again tomorrow, right? And so I plan out my meals. I eat my meals at, in approximate amounts that I plan. Some days I plan to have a creamy for dessert, and I do that, on the early, like right after dinner. I don't wait a long time. Um, and sometimes I don't. I just have dinner and that's it. So I don't snack at night. I don't snack, really don't snack at all. Again, like rules are made to be broken. If I'm on like vacation and somebody has like a vegetable platter out and we're at a party or whatever, sure, I'll have some of that or whatever. But like 99% of the time, I just eat meals and I don't snack. It should set me up for a lot more success. If you just put plates of little tidbits of food in front of me all day long, I would just keep eating all day long. If you put food in front of me, I will want to eat it. I just can't. I am a food addict. I will want to eat food all day, every day if you put it in front of my face. And so I work with that, and I don't I mean, I could go into the kitchen and get food, but I have enough self-control that I don't do that. But if it were like on the table in front of me, it would be very distracting. So I don't put it on the table in front of me unless it's time to eat it. So that's how I deal with food timing. Sharon says I'm in that meat aversion phase, so I'm doing more seafood. And seafood, very good for you. I am seafood supportive. I wish I liked it. It is very good for you. Sometimes I forget it exists because I don't like it. I am a big seafood supporter. I just can't. But yeah, absolutely. I think seafood is great for you. And 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 it really helps with omega-3. um wow, words are hard when it's allergy season. Does anyone else get like super like what? um I think it's really nutritionally dense food, and you get the omega-3s, which are a very powerful type of fat that we don't get enough of most of the time. And so I think there's a lot of reasons you'd want you know, a diet that's based in eating a lot of seafood. And so highly supportive of the concept. I wish I wasn't such a baby about my food choices, to be perfectly honest. But I think by now it would have reared its head if there was any flexibility in my ability to eat things that taste poisonous to me. It's just sort of the way it is. All right. Who else has a question? I'm happy to answer it. We hit a pause in the question. So, what else is going on? Let me think. What else can I'm like, what else can I talk about for you? I listened to a podcast. I haven't listened to the whole podcast. I started a podcast the other day, and it does actually seem like maybe do you guys know the term NAFLD, NAFLD, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease? And Dr. Barry and I put in our book Common Sense Labs that the we really think it should be called MAFLD, metabolic in my brain, a metabolic associated fatty liver disease. And now I'm hearing I'm hearing some experts in the liver field calling it MASLD. I'm trying to remember what the S is for. But I think it's metabolic associated steatohepatitis. Steatohepatitis, steatohepatitis. I don't remember which word they're using for the S, fatty liver. So they're moving to, there's somebody else that I heard call it metabolic associated. And so I was excited that there's some real recognition. It feels like they're gonna start to happen, that people are acknowledging the large metabolic thrust of what has previously been called NAFLD. And I don't like NAFLD because it's what it's not, non-alcoholic, right? And it's just, the reason it got that name is because previously this fatty liver was almost always related to alcohol consumption, and then now it's not. That's a small portion of it. But the thing that was interesting, they started to talk about, I should probably listen to the whole podcast before I start talking about it, but okay. But they were talking in this interview a little bit about the fact that once upon a time, they thought that hepatitis C was going to be the number one reason we need liver transplants in the world. And then MAFLD started to come up. There was more this metabolic fatty liver, and then that was way outpacing hepatitis C. And now there's actually a treatment for, or basically a cure, right, for hepatitis C. So that doesn't look like the way it's going. But now, apparently, over the pandemic, the amount people have been drinking in the pandemic period went up so much that now it's not that metabolic problems went down, it's just that drinking went up. And so now the fatty liver, now the alcoholic fatty liver is kind of coming to meet the metabolic, and it's bad out there. It's bad out there in terms of how people are treating their bodies, for sure. And I have many, many, many addictions, but alcohol was never, it does not call my name. Like, I'll have a drink a couple times a year. That's it, right? And so it's super, like, I've always felt like, you know, whenever I talk to somebody who's like, "Oh yeah, I don't really have a problem with food. I've never been overweight. Yeah, if I just am like trying to lose weight, I'm just like, okay, I just won't eat today." And they just like can take it or leave it. And that's always been so weird to me. It's always been like, "You do what? You can do that what?" Like, I'm like, this is an alien. We don't think at all the same. But that's how I feel about alcohol. And so I think then I'm like, okay, well, to an alcoholic, the way I feel about alcohol probably sounds really weird. And so I just kind of made that weird association in my mind. So sometimes I'm like, oh, I feel normal about alcohol. That's like, oh, that's like my non-addict brain in like the alcohol realm. I'm like, oh, is this how a non-food addict feels about food? I always use my boyfriend as like my check-in, because he is a non-food addict. He likes food. He enjoys eating. But he's more like, "Oh, I have to remind myself to eat enough so I don't get too skinny." Yeah, I know. I know. I know. But like recently he's like, "I'm gonna have to add like a breakfast sandwich to my day, like in addition to what he normally eats." Something like that. I just gotta throw in something else because I'm leaning out a little too much. Anyway. Kathy asked, "Do I drink electrolytes?" I do. Where's my oh, I already put it in the recycling bin. I was drinking a can of Element watermelon today. The watermelon electrolytes, but the canned that they've just started making, which is the sparkling water ones, they're very good. Those are heavy. So when the box came to my house, I like tried to pick it up, and I wasn't sort of, when you see a box a certain size, you have an idea of how heavy it's going to be, and you go to lift it, and suddenly like, must lift with legs. I had to like get my fingers under it and lift more carefully. And my boyfriend, actually, I was like, "Pick this up." Usually I'm like, "Pick this up." And he's like, "What? It's fine." This time he was like, "Whoa." And so he actually put it on the scale. It was 42 pounds, I think, if I remember correctly. And it was a heavy box. So yes, I do drink electrolytes, especially when I'm in weight loss phases, or it's summer, or I've been working out more, or any of those things. So I can tell you the things that I do in my life. Um, I take vitamin things that at this point, I didn't always do this in my keto low carb weight loss journey. But at this point, I kind of have my routine, which is most days I have electrolytes, but not every day, but most days. Um, I also salt my food quite a bit. But I'm not like trying to hit some specific number, but I do have some electrolytes every day. They work for me. And by electrolytes, I mean like supplemental, like I'll have a packet of Element or a can of Element or whatever, or Relight, a heavy duty salty beverage thing. I like those. I like putting elements in my iced tea. Keep I make a container of iced tea every week, and I put electrolytes in it. Then I do vitamins. I do omega 3s because I think omega 3s are extremely important, and I don't like fish, as we have discussed. So I do omega 3s. I do Nordic Naturals usually. So you got to be really careful with brands of omega 3s because they can be really rancid. You got to go with a good maker. I have creatine, which is for brain health, in my opinion, and muscle health too, but mostly brain is the reason I take it. A bodybuilder, probably muscle, right? Not a bodybuilder. I take a lot of magnesium. I'm somebody that needs a fair amount of magnesium, so I do a lot of magnesium. Vitamin D3K2. So I'm trying to like remember the list. I like make little pill packets. I'm like, what is in there? So that was, and then I'm probably forgetting. And then I like fool around with like inositol sometimes, but it's not something I feel like I have to take. Um, and then so yeah, that's my like what I take on the regular that I can remember off the top of my head. And I make sure to get no less than about 100 to 120 grams of protein in a day. Um, that's like my bare minimum. And then I make sure that yeah, so I think that's kind of it. I currently eat fruit, so I get a good amount of vitamin C in fruit and vegetables. But if I were low on those things, I might look at taking vitamin C. Kathy mentioned the vitamin C. Cheryl asked if I take B12. Now, in my past, I've been B12 deficient, and when I am B12 deficient, I definitely take B12. If But I get that checked in my blood, and if my B12 levels are okay, I don't bother. I eat a lot of meat. So I think that's pretty covered. But yeah, I would definitely supplement. So there are a couple of different vitamins and minerals that I test and then supplement if I need them. So, vitamin C is one of those, B12 is another. I also make sure I know what's going on with my iron. I have a little bit of a wonky iron thing, so I take iron intermittently because of that, but I check on that. I check on my vitamin D. It's always low, which is why I just always take vitamin D. But B12 is one of those that I check, and if it's low, I definitely supplement. Um, Thanks, Kathy. I appreciate that you like my funny stories. David says I like the Carlson cod liver oil. Yeah, cod liver oil is great if you like it. And I hear it's not super duper fishy actually, which seems weird because it seems like it would be. But yeah, the more you can get things from whole food, the better, in my opinion. I mean, um, and so if you can get it from whole food, great, and then supplement from there. And mostly I pay attention to like more supplementing for things like I cannot get my vitamin D up above like the floor unless I supplement really emphatically. It's just who I apparently am in the world. Even, I go outside, I spend time in the sunlight, I do those things, I turn into a big freckle girl in the summer, and I can't keep my vitamin D up, so I do that. I have noticed that when I get enough vitamin C, my other blood markers often look better. My inflammation is lower. My iron is better because they can work together. My uric acid goes real low as long as I'm getting a good amount of vitamin C in, and so not real low, like healthy low, not just not high. And so those are things that I pay attention to. So I look at my blood work and say, what's going on in my body? What needs to be worked on, adjusted, all that kind of stuff. And then I supplement from there. You can't look at electrolytes. I mean, you can look at electrolytes in the blood work, but they won't tell you anything about your actual status. So, like if you're low in if your blood work is low in magnesium or low in potassium, it means you have a health crisis. It doesn't mean well, it certainly means you need some potassium or magnesium, but it doesn't necessarily mean that if it's not low that you're not having a crisis. So it's like if potassium or magnesium is super low in your blood work, it's an emergency and you need to deal with that. But if it's not super low, it doesn't mean it's not an emergency. Okay, I'll say it that way. So certain things you can look at in blood work and know that it means you're doing well or not. But electrolytes, you can't. You just have to go based on what you know about what you eat and how your body responds. And so, like, I can't tell if I'm low on magnesium or not. I have my magnesium right here. I can't tell if I'm low on magnesium or not from my blood work. Why is the reason for that? Well, magnesium and potassium and all the electrolytes are stored throughout our body. But if they're not kept topped off in the bloodstream, they start pulling it from other organs, bones, all that. Because if it's not okay in your blood, you're going to die. And so the last place it's going to look bad is your blood. But it can be pretty bad before the blood starts to look bad. And so that's why you gotta just kind of keep a mental inventory of like what's going on with my electrolytes. And so I happen to know that when I take enough magnesium, this is magnesium citramate from Thorne, which is the one I like, which is a combination of citrate and malate. I know when I take this, my digestion is good. And if I don't take this, my digestion is not good. So I definitely have some signs that I need more magnesium in my life. And so that's the one I take. And I was learning some interesting things about magnesium the other day. Magnesium threonate is kind of the new kid on the block. So all magnesiums are bound to something, right? So we've got magnesium glycinate, we've got magnesium threonate, we've got magnesium citrate, we've got magnesium oxide. So all the magnesiums are always bound to something. And so what it's bound to will determine how bioavailable that magnesium is to you. So like magnesium oxide, not bioavailable, it's pretty much a laxative. The reason it's a laxative is because it's not it just flushes through your system. So you don't have any time to absorb that magnesium. But like magnesium glycinate has been proven to be very, very well absorbed. Magnesium malate, very well absorbed. Magnesium threonate magnesium citrate is an interesting one. It's somewhat well absorbed. It's pretty well absorbed, but it's also a little bit gut irritating, and that gut irritation in a way helps keep the bowels moving. So there you go. So because it concentrated magnesium citrate is actually a laxative. Like they sell it in a little bottle. But magnesium threonate has been shown to be like cross the blood-brain barrier. So it's been kind of a little bit of a darling in certain ways to help with sleep for a lot of people. But I was recently listening to Rhonda Patrick talking about the fact that it's not actually been shown to be as well absorbed. And so to me, it really makes sense to combine different forms of magnesium because you need some sort of more of like systemic issues. You need to make sure you're absorbing enough. And so I think it really makes sense to get multiple sources of magnesium if that's something that you're really trying to dive into. White Noise asked a question. You were discussing menopause last time. Diet really affects my cycle. My whole life it's been brutal. Ugh, sorry. A high carb diet means a lot of monthly pain. But high fat is much better. It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, well, hormone support, right? If you think about the fact that how our cycle like how we are doing during our cycle, it's very hormonal in nature. That sounds very cyclical. I don't know. Yes, hormone cycle, yes. And the way that we eat can absolutely have a huge impact on our hormones. And so yeah, finding what works for you in terms of pain management and ease of symptoms. I hear that from a lot of people. Absolutely. So totally support that. White Noise says, so happy I'm doing the lives while taking a break. Yeah, for those of you that don't know, I have a podcast, Keto Life Support. I'm taking a little break from the podcast figuring out what the next things about the podcast should be. I started to feel like on the podcast, I was just sort of like doing a podcast because I was supposed to do a episode, and that didn't feel good to me because then I felt like I was kind of like dialing it, phoning it in a little bit, like not putting all the effort behind it. And I think I'm a little efforted out with book writing and coaching and all that. And I was like, all right, better to take a step back and give better product than stay on something that I'm sort of feeling like I might be half-assing. So just trying to be an honest human there. Anyway, but thank you, White Noise. I appreciate that. My dad called me today. I was like, Dad, what's going on? He's like, I hear you're not doing the podcast for a while. And I was like, you listen to my podcast? It's very sweet. Anyway, so, Bob said, glad to hear about the new American Diabetes Society. Yes, it took me a minute to hear about it too, but then I found out. So the American Diabetes Society is a great thing. I'm really looking forward to that, getting up to speed as being a great source for information for people who know that the ADA is not the best source of information about blood sugar control and management issues, but maybe we could create something better for people out there because everyone deserves quality information about blood sugar management, and I'm hoping for really amazing things with the ADS. David said my interviews on the podcast were great. Thanks, David. Yeah, and I look forward to in the future bringing back interviews to do more of those. Sometimes just listening to myself talk, so boring. Anyway, all right. Any other last questions before we wrap it up for the day? It's probably too late in the day for me to be drinking this iced coffee, but here I am, finishing my iced coffee. Oh, sweet White Noise. I talked to you. I know, but I am here in these four walls blathering about a topic, and I get a little self-conscious sometimes. Maybe I should do the podcast live, and then then it wouldn't be so feeling like hello, is anyone listening? Magic Beans, hi. Yeah, we're close to wrapping it up. If you have any questions though, I'm happy to answer them. Happy to talk about anything that people want to talk about. Um, yeah. Yeah, I put a recipe up on the what's it called? Website. That's what it's called. The website this week for the first time in I think a year. I did manage to burn my hand on I always do it on the ring finger of one or the other hands when I just whack it into the door of the of the oven. Jeez Louise, I get like, is it called aphasia? I think, look, I can remember the word aphasia, but I can't remember the word oven. I don't know. It's when it's allergy season, I just get like very stupid. Very stupid. Like people talk about like pregnancy brain. I have allergy brain, and it's always like I can't remember a word or lots of words. Words are hard. And so yeah, I can remember aphasia, but I can't remember oven. I'm sorry. I don't know what to say about that. Oh, sweet White Noise. Oh my God. I think you were one of my favorite chatters. I appreciate that. I'll tell my boyfriend. Magic Beans, just wanted to say thank you for your class earlier in the year. I've lost even more weight. Oh, yay! And feel great. Getting unstuck has helped so much. Thank you so much. Oh, good. I have to, on my agenda for the next few weeks is actually to redo Keto Unstuck, which is the program I do for people whose weight loss has stalled, and then put out another round of it. So maybe that gives me a little kick in the booty I needed to do that, and instead of sitting in a sunny coffee shop for the afternoon. I guess I could do it I could take my computer to the coffee shop and sit in the sun and work on it. I mean, this is what I'm allowed to do. So I should do that, shouldn't I? I need a keeper. All right. All right, guys. I appreciate you all. You are my favorite people. White Noise says, I lose my nouns. Yes, I do lose my nouns. Anyway, all right. I will be back with you next week. I don't think there's anything crazy happening this week, but I will see you next Tuesday. Please feel free to bring your questions. I'm always happy to answer them. Bye bye.